Hey everyone, Sil Angelescu here. I'm with New Relic. Today I'm going to talk to you about Cloud Optimize, which is one of our open source nerdlets available on the application catalog on New Relic One observability platform. I'm going to show you how to install it, how to set it up. We're going to do it two ways, one way with the app catalog and one way by cloning the repository, the code repository. And I'm going to show you how this could help you optimize your cloud spend, your cloud services spend. So let's dig in. So as you look at as you browse to one.newrelic.com, as you can see here, I'm at the homepage of the New Relic One observability platform. What you're presented with is the Entity Explorer, distributed tracing, dashboards, all the core functionality of New Relic One, as well as this box here that allows you to build your own application. And so, as you probably know, you can build your own nerdlets, which are custom applications that have specific functionality that solves a certain use case that you have in your organization. There are a certain number of apps that I have already installed on my homepage. As you can see, Deployment Analyzer, E2M Cardinality Calculator, the NerdGraph Load Shedding Test, a whole bunch of other things. So what I want to show you now is how you can add the Cloud Optimize nerdlet to this homepage. The simplest way to do that is to use the application catalog, and this is this little rectangle here. This is a new feature that we just added, which allows you to. It makes it a lot easier to install applications onto your New Relic platform. And those applications could be apps that we developed, or apps that our partners develop, or even apps that our customers develop that they decide to make available open source. So let's take a look at what we have in there. So if I click on Application Catalog, once it finished loading, there you go. So we have several applications here, and you can see that Cloud Optimize is actually one of the featured ones because it's probably one of the most used ones out there as well, mostly deployed. But you can see how we have a certain number of apps here, but let's focus on Cloud Optimize. So in order to add this app to your New Relic One homepage, you simply click on Add this app. If it's one of the features app, alternately you could just click on the Cloud Optimize rectangle, but let's use the sort of the more direct way, clicking on the Add this app link here. That pops up a window. From here, essentially what the application catalog asks us is which accounts you want to subscribe to this application. And what you would see in your environment, you would probably see a different list of accounts because this list depends on the New Relic accounts that you have access to. And what we're looking at here is the list of New Relic accounts that I have access to. So to make it easy, let's just check on this box on top of the list, which would basically subscribe all the accounts to Cloud Optimize. And then once you're done, you click Update Access. And that essentially, it says update successful, 11 accounts can now use Cloud Optimize. And so if I close this window, I go back to the New Relic One homepage by clicking simply on New Relic One, or you can hit the back button too, either way works. Now I'm back to the homepage. So now we can see that Cloud Optimize has been deployed onto our New Relic One homepage. So what we need to do at this point, just click on the rectangle and let's take a look at what this application is doing. So what do we see in this app? It's basically looking at the cloud services accounts that you have access to, and it looks at the instances that you have, at the load on those instances by using our infrastructure product, and it determines whether the load on those instances is low. If the load is low, then it would suggest that maybe you should move those workloads to a smaller instance, and that would save you a ton of money, as it's shown in this screen. So, for instance, if you're using C4 large instances, but the CPU is used only about 20% across those instances, then maybe you could move them to a micro instance or a small at the very least, and that would save you some cost, right? Some monthly cost, which translates into pretty big amounts potentially on a yearly basis and across your apps, especially if you have several cloud instances, which most people do. So if I look at the screen here, what we have is it would cost you only $604.80 yearly instead of $1,800.99 yearly. So potentially you would save about $1,294.27 yearly. So in order to have a little bit more details as to what you should do, you can click on these. So it tells you by account, right? So right now you can order this list or these cards. You can order them by New Relic account, which is what I did here. So it tells you for each of the New Relic accounts, what how much you could save for per account. You could order these cards by something else. You could order them by cloud account, for instance. So let's say that we have the main New Relic cloud account and we have some other uncategorized smaller accounts, and then it tells you here what the savings are for each one of them. You could order this by applications. So you could see, for instance, if these apps, for instance, are training apps that we use in our training courses. So, for example, FoodMe and New Relic Pet Clinic, it tells you how much you could save on them. If I scroll down a little bit, well, the other ones are a little bit underwhelming because they're all at 0 right now, but it depends which account you're looking at as well, okay? And which apps are available in that account. Then you can look by region. You can look by instance type. So it kind of breaks down the list in the types of instances that you have. So we have some T2 large, we have some T2 smalls, some micros, and some nanos, and it tells you what you could save on each of these type of instances if you move them to something else. If you click on Show Optimization Candidates, that would actually tell you exactly which instance you should move, what entity it belongs to. It tells you also some host metrics here. So it kind of tells you how much memory is used, how much CPU, those kind of things. And then at the third column from the right, it tells you the suggested instance type for this. So it suggests, for instance, that this particular instance, instead of running it on a T2 large, if you moved it to a T3A medium, you would save about $38 a month, which is quite significant, right? So if I go back let's go back to the default view by New Relic account, and we can click on some other, let's say on Origami Financial Services, for instance, on this particular account. If I click on Show Optimization Candidates, you can see how all of the different hosts are listed here with the same type of recommendation. It tells us that some of these are T2 small, and they could use a T3 micro. So even though it's not because it's a small instance that it's optimal, in some cases you run a small instance, you could actually run it on even smaller than what you're running on. So anyway, that's sort of the idea of Cloud Optimized. You can export this data if you choose so. So if you click on Export Data, it basically exports a comma-separated value file right into the downloads directory of your computer. And note this link here, and note the little message on the bottom left corner of the screen. If you click on this link, it actually jumps into RPM. It jumps into the APM overview of this particular application. So it would let me do it actually just to show you. So if let's open in a new window. So I'm opening this into a new window, and this is literally opening the Origami Financial Services at the account setting page. But you could actually go to applications and look at the applications that are running on these particular hosts. So it's kind of a quick way to jump right into the app that you're looking at. So let's go back to where I was. All right, so that sort of summarizes Cloud Optimize. Let's see. It tells you here how many accounts it's looking at, how many instances it's looking at, and again, the group by. You can group by different things. You can also group by. I didn't mention this, but you can group by the cloud tags and labels. So if you set tags and labels on your instances and on your cloud entities, which it's actually best practice to do that, then you could group it by those tags here. So that's in a nutshell, that's Cloud Optimize. What I would like to do next, I would like to show you another way to install Cloud Optimize using the command line. So you're probably familiar already with the command line. If not, I strongly suggest that you go back to the home page. So let me go back to the home page. And if you click on Build Your Own Application here, this basically guides you through the steps to download the New Relic One CLI, the command line interface, that you can use to interact with these NerdPacks, to build your own NerdPacks. to clone repositories that already exist, GitHub repositories that already exist. And so I'm gonna use the New Relic 1 CLI to clone the repository of Cloud Optimize and show you how you can deploy it locally from your laptop using the command line interface. And also you could use that as a baseline for writing a different application that would solve maybe a similar type of problem that Cloud Optimize solves, but slightly different for your particular case. Maybe you would like to add, for instance, another cloud provider, or maybe you would like to provide the same type of cost cost optimization service for some sort of internal cloud platform that you're using, right? Internally developed cloud platform. So that's something you could do. So let's go to this. Let's go to the terminal prompt first of all. So right now I'm in a directory that is named nr1cloudoptimize.sil in GitHub. So essentially, I've already cloned this directory, and I keep it as a reference repository, if you will. So you can do that in your own environment. The idea would be to do a git clone on Cloud Optimize source code, and then you rename it to something else to keep it as maybe a reference point at that point. And then you duplicate that directory and you work on the duplicate on the local on the copy that you use as a dev environment, if you will, to develop your new app using Cloud Optimize as a baseline, for example. So I'm in Cloud Optimize right now. If I start this this particular nerdlet, so let's do that. Let me run nr1 nerdpack serve to start serving this nerdpack locally from my laptop. It's going to take a few minutes, maybe a few seconds to load up. And once it loaded up, now I can go to remember you have to go to the local, you have to go to this URL, right? You have to go to, you have to go to the 1.newrelic.com/?nerdpacks equals local. That's the local URL that serves nerdpacks that are published onto the platform, as well as nerdpacks that are being published or served from your own laptop. And that's the one we want to see now. So let's go to that local URL, which it's where we already are. If you look at the URL here, it says nerdpacks local, right? So let's go to the New Relic 1 homepage. And if I refresh this page real quick. Okay, so check this out. What you see now, you see the Cloud Optimize, which is the application that we subscribe to from the application catalog, right? That was like the one that is published onto the platform itself. But you also see this other copy here that says SIL's Cloud Optimizer, right? So it's basically the same app, but I downloaded it. I cloned it with git clone, and I changed two little things in there just to change the name of it, to name it SIL's Cloud Optimizer. I also changed the description box to say this. If you look, by the way, if you look at the default one, at the description box, it simply says Cloud Optimizer, right? In this case, in the one I'm serving locally, it says this tool analyzes your cloud services spend and suggests optimizations, right? So I changed that description. So if I click on it, once I click on it, it's going to load basically the same screens we've been looking at, but with slightly different accounts because I'm running it with a different list of accounts. We actually have more accounts here, 10 accounts, 43 instances. And so the numbers here are pretty impressive. As you can see, yearly non-optimized, we're spending $6,000 plus. If we optimized per Cloud Optimizer guidelines, we would spend only about $2,000. And that's a potential savings of about $4,000 and change, right? So it's pretty interesting. And you can see here that these cards list all of the different accounts that my New Relic admin account has access to. And for each one of them, we get a card with the potential savings, how much you'd spend optimize, and what are the potential savings for each of these accounts. Again, you can order this by account. You can order this by cloud account. So you can see here all of the different cloud accounts that we have. You can order this by applications, regions, and so on. So same thing as we saw earlier. This is the local app that I'm serving from my laptop right now. It's basically the same functionality, and you can also group things by tags, by cloud tags and labels. And you can see that here we have a little bit more labels than earlier because, like I said, we have a lot more accounts that we're looking at right now. So anyway, same functionality, so far so good. What I want to show you is how did I get this code to run from my laptop? So you saw how I started it up, right? I started up with this command, nr nerdpack serve, that I ran in the nr1 cloud optimize sil directory, right, in GitHub. So the question is, how would you clone this thing, right? So let me close it real quick. Oh, one thing I want to show you, by the way. One thing I want to show you is I'm going to open Visual Studio Code, which is, or you can use any other code editor, but I'm just going to use Visual Studio Code here. Open, and what I want to open here, I want to open the directory of this particular nerdlet that we've been looking at, the local one, nr1 cloud optimize.sil that we've been looking at. Click open. That opens the whole directory. And what I want to show you is what did I have to change the title. So in the launchers, you change the nr1 JSON file, which is a configuration file. And in here, you change two things. I changed two things. I changed the display name, which is the title of that rectangle on the home page, and I changed it to Sales Cloud Optimizer. And I changed the description, which is the text that shows up in the tooltip as you hover over that rectangle. So if I go back to the home page, let's do this. See, the title is Sales Cloud Optimizer. The tooltip is what shows up when I hover over that little information circle that shows up as you hover over the rectangle. So yeah, you can totally configure these things. If you're in a country that is, that doesn't use English, they use another language, you could totally use this for localization as well. Like this could be in French or Spanish or whatever local language is being used. So anyway, that's how you change this, how you configure. And the code itself, the code of the Cloud Optimized Nerdlet is in the Nerdlets directory. So if you expand the Nerdlets directory, the code is all here, right? Cloud Optimized Nerdlet, this is it basically. So cloud optimized.javascript, this is the code. And this, you can use this code and index.javascript. So we have a number, you can organize these nerdlets with several JavaScript files, with several folders. You could have more than one nerdlet that powers an application, that composes an application. And depending on the complexity of your app, of your use case, you can do, the sky is the limit, right? Although the sky is not that high. So I like to say that the sky is not even the limit. But in any case, this is where that's what you would use as a baseline to start changing this code and make Cloud Optimized do something slightly different or augment it to do something more than what it just does right now. So let me close this now. And what I want to show you next is how do you get the code on your laptop, right? So first of all, you have to install the nr1. If you're going to build your own application, rectangle, you have to download the nr1 CLI. That's the first thing you do. And then you run nr1 version to make sure that the CLI is installed. You can run, if you already have the CLI installed, you can run nr1 -- update to update it to the latest version. Sometimes we update the CLI constantly, and we update the SDK constantly as well. And if you notice that a nerdlet, for instance, doesn't work at some point, or maybe you download a nerdpack from the application catalog and somehow it doesn't work in your environment, and you've had the nr1 CLI installed since a while because you've been working with other nerdlets, with other nerdpacks, well, update the CLI. I've seen this. It happened to me in the past where this exact case happened, where I downloaded an application from the application catalog, and it actually didn't work at first try. And it just turns out that I didn't have the required functionality in my nr1 CLI on my laptop to be able to run that app. And once I updated the nr1 CLI with the nr1 -- update command, then the nerdlet ran just fine. Okay. So anyway, the build your own app page kind of goes through the steps to download the CLI, to create a profile, because you need to create a user profile using an API key. API key that you select here in this drop-down list. You can see how we have several keys. You can generate keys, or you can select an existing key, and these keys are going to be different based on your New Relic account. Once you select that key, then it's going to update the API key argument to the NR1 command. Then to the NR1 profiles add command. So then you add a profile locally on your laptop using the NR1 profiles add command and using the key that you selected. And that's how NR1 on your laptop is going to interact with the correct account within the New Relic One observability platform to create nerdlets, to deploy nerdlets, and to deploy nerdlets locally from your laptop. Okay, so let me go back to the New Relic One page. And voila, it tells me that local nerdpacks fade to load because I don't have any local nerdpacks that are being served right now, which is normal. I still have cloud optimized. So let's suppose that you want to unsubscribe to it. I mean, I don't know why you would do that, but let's suppose that you would like for whatever reason, you want to remove this app. You want to unsubscribe from it. You go into the application. To do that, you go into the application catalog, and in there, you click on the app. You click on Cloud Optimize. And then you simply remove access to it on these accounts. So you click on the Manage Access button. And you see how I have this check mark that is on the top of the list, which means that all the accounts underneath are subscribed to this application. If I want to remove access to Cloud Optimize for these accounts, you simply uncheck it. And then once you can see all of these accounts are now unsubscribed from Cloud Optimize. You could also subscribe accounts individually. You could choose and you could pick and choose which accounts have access to this particular tool, to Cloud Optimize. And that goes for the tools that you develop as well. So, but let's say that in this case, I want to remove it completely from my New Relic One homepage. So I just uncheck the box on top, and then I click Update Access. And there you go. Now it tells me 0 account can use Cloud Optimize, which is sort of what I wanted. So let's close this page. And if I go back to New Relic One homepage, you can see that, well, let's refresh it first of all. Still not serving any local nerdpacks. And you can see how Cloud Optimize is not here anymore. Okay, so now we're back to where we started at the beginning of this video. So thanks for watching this presentation. I hope it's useful, and I hope you'll go out there and start writing your own nerdlets. And again, thank you for watching, and keep on coding.